Now that we are in intermission, we will in fact be doing the Game of Shadows turns like so. Since I can't gather all the players at once, I will read the results from each turn, and this will constitute like a middle episode probably. So we will invoke, if you will, the town crier to report on what has happened around the Trachorian Empire this turn. Yes, my friends, the Game of Shadows is no longer confined to Arhem, a small colony somewhere far away that has now been overrun by the Restless. It is now a Game of Shadows of the entire Trachorian Empire. Who knows what triumphs and catastrophes await the various powers in these lands. So, let's dive into it, shall we? We start in the south, where the island of Safina is located. So we can see here. And here, there are three different areas, Korjulme, the Frimboline Plains, and Ardahals. As we also can see here, Baru Sambarsin Korea and his Inquisition has some influence in the region. The main headquarters of the Inquisition is to be found in the Frimboline Plains, but there is also some influence in the rest of the island. This is the southern island of the Trachorian Empire, the one with the least amount of politicking around it, perhaps. You will also notice here that we have the leader of the Inquisition himself right here. Baru himself is in the Frimboline Plains. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, as we move forward, and others, as we move forward through these Game of Shadows turns, it will be possible, in fact, to attack the powers themselves, the shadow actors themselves. Who knows if any of these powers that be will survive this campaign. In the south, this first turn of the Game of Shadows for this intermission, this turn takes place during 3 months. The months of Melendo, Birdo, and Giren, respectively. This is the third quarter of the year. And during this time, the following happens in Safina. In Korjulme, we have fishermen, and they continue to prepare for the long fishing season, gathering nearby help to prepare their ships and continue to gather more for the months to come. So they are mobilizing, and thus going from 1 strength point to 2. That's it. That's their action. Further, in the Frimboline Plains, to the south, farmers. These are all people working for the Inquisition here. You can tell by the green font. Just as the fishermen must tend to their nets, the farmers must tend to their fields. They begin the process of tending to their farms and plots of lands, preparing for and continuing to ready for the harvesting to come. And they, just like the fishers, are mobilizing. So we have... Oh, I made a mistake. Shouldn't have increased the influence, should I? The influence remains a 1. The fishermen go to level 2. My bad. Will not happen again. Okay. So, we have the farmers mobilizing to level 2. There we go. And finally, in Ardahals, up in this mountainous region where the city of Gaz-Ulul sits on the one pass one reliable pass between the north and the south. That is where Sambarsun's Korea has a unit of witch hunters. They have heard rumors of a nearby town that may have witches, and as such begin to mobilize their forces, rallying nearby villagers to their cause. And such, they level up as well to level 2. You will notice a trend here, maybe. That trend will continue. And that concludes the action on Safina, where only really the Inquisition is active among the powers. Let's go north to the second smallest activities, I suppose, of the Shadow Games. Here we find Limer Spade, the Transmiran revolutionary, and Fundibera the witch on each side of the island. Limer Spade's headquarters is in Milaki, and Fundibera's is in Kark. In Milaki, Fundibera has some inconspicuous witches. They are a group of women that have taken to making potions to heal the sick, help bring new life into the world, and assisting others as they leave it. They all seem rather helpful and have been known to recover a failing crop or two in their time. They otherwise cast aside, women who have been otherwise cast aside flock to them, hoping for a stable, safe community. And so they mobilize as well from level 1 to level 2. Also, not only Fundibera's witches are mobilizing, Limer Spade's Milaki nobles are mobilizing. They raise their heads at long last. Rumors begin to spread that disaster has befallen the Empire's sulfur revenues, and mercenaries begin to openly wonder if they will be paid. Fortunately, the long-dispossessed nobles of Milaki have long hoarded familial wealth, which begins to trickle into the pockets of the most disaffected condottieri. Thus, the nobles mobilize and go to level 2, which in this game system is an action that's straightforward, always automatically successful, and cannot be blocked. We move on to Himbergond, the mountain range. And here, the priests of Fundibera are also mobilizing. These do-gooders just want to bring peace, freedom, and strength to the oppressed. Their openness and kindness draws in new members. And so the ranks are swelling for the priests of Fundibera. I would think they're probably worshipping the moon goddess, which is a deity known for her wild ways. Think the Bacchants. Limer Spade is also has some agents here, some resources in the Himbergond Mountains. Fire Mountain Crones. These crones turn their attention to the slave-fueled iron mines of Himbergond, recognizing the hopeful music revering Inashtar present in the mining of the Iron Mountain. The fires of the slave camps burn a bit brighter as the creationist crones peer through the flames. And so they mobilize too. Yeah, everybody's mobilizing this turn, basically. And so we move on to Kark, where only Fundibera has agents. These mummers, the players and artists in the troupe known as the Wild Cycle, are always looking for folks to join. Whether for a scene, a play, or for all life, all are welcome in the free-spirited band. And so they have also mobilized and are now at level 2. In Mixa, finally, which is technically an island off from Trinsmira, here we have some Trinsmiran Highlanders working for Lemur Speda. They are also mobilizing. The Highlanders begin to gather, not in the Trinsmiran Highlands, but on the more remote locale of Mixa. They do not raise banners, but instead host feasts and feats of strength honoring Inashtar. All Trinsmirans are welcome, for who could turn away from the goddess of war? We'll have to ask ourselves how these Highlanders might stir up trouble for the Imperials down the line. And that concludes the business on Trinsmira, this northern island so troubled. We will see what's happening on Palamux next. As you can see from this map, and dear audience, there is no agents of any kind in either Losimos or Zidispar at present. The only shadow powers active here are Princess Folda and Gerion Groteski, both of whom claim that they are the true heir of the old Klavikian Empire. Will they ally, or will we see a rivalry that turns to bloodshed? Only time will tell. For now, Folda's scholars in Nastrol are mobilizing. These scholars express their regret. Very sad what happened to Arham. Terrible tragedy. Human cost, economic devastation. Yes, all of that. But Folda's pet scholars, led by Magister Callan Lightus, are more interested in the incontrovertible evidence uncovered by a certain archaeological expedition as to the existence of an ancient high culture at Kruri. Had not Trakorian-sponsored scholars sought to discredit earlier investigations into the place? What other knowledge might the Empire be suppressing? Such dangerous questions are more easily explored in the technically independent region of Nastrol, whose many monastic orders keep records stretching back eons. But first, the scholars must make connection with local experts, adding to their numbers and expertise. And so they, you guessed it, they mobilize. All this, by the way, is written by the players. Because they write awesome stuff. There are also some laborers in Nastrol working for Gerion Groteski. They construct bridges to better shore up much needed infrastructure and learn some skills in the pursuit of doing so, leveling up to level 2. In Fontrasilor, of course, being a wretched hive of scum and villainy. This old capital of the Klavikian Empire. Here we have resources, agents working for both the Princess Folda and Gerion Groteski. This is the base of operations for Princess Folda. She has more influence here than Gerion. And her courtiers mobilize. The pretty young things with whom Princess Folda surrounds herself are all agog at the prospect of a ball to welcome the princess home. Invitations are sent, and orders are placed at houses of fashion near and far, though the only Transilvan business to receive any is a certain wig-makers guild. In other words, the Transilvan Mafia. The celebration is yet distant. Perfection takes time, but that is no excuse for idleness. The young nobility, led by Lady Brithani Welliswaith, jostle, preen, and scheme, each aiming to shine most brightly, and in so doing, they build contacts throughout the city, mobilizing from level 1 to level 2. Gerion has some mentalists working for him in Fontrasilor. These conjurers of mentalist magics. They use their abilities to steal secrets from people's heads, and thus also mobilize from level 1 to level 2. You will see down the line here why everyone basically is mobilizing right now. And then we have Moscoria, which is in fact Gerion Grotesky's headquarters. This is where most of the old Klavikian nobility have their estates, you see. Gerion's illusionists expand their academy after a generous anonymous donor, mobilizing from level 1 to level 2. And the Princess Folda has merchants here. They seek to establish trade relations with Her Grace's royal cousin, Gerion Grotesky. They bring with them a selection of products from the princess's own estate, or at least the kinds of products the princess's estate would produce if it had not long ago fallen to ruin. But this is a temporary problem, and one it would be very rude to mention. Bodeville Scoffer, survivor of the disaster at Arham, also brings news of the event and the economic opportunities now to be had at the Empire's expense, at least when he's not busy telling everyone that the pitiful, threadbare, salt-sucking sand counters who pass for merchants would be nothing without his able leadership. For all his Paratornan eccentricities, however, the former principal of the Shakello merchant house clearly knows his business, and the trade mission lines the pockets of all involved, thus mobilizing also the merchants to level 2. And that concludes the business of Palamux. We move finally to the core of the realm, Paratorna, where the Empire is governed. We will go from north to south. In the north, Gosgana da Skugre, the head of the Defaults Guild, has established his base for the guild. This guild who is conducting some maybe shady experiments in their basements and labs. The alchemists in Illiboria are trying out several new recipes and ingredients, learning some interesting new insights about their effects on the human body, whether the test subjects wanted it or not. And so their alchemists level up to level 3. In Rule, the actors in Rule work hard on rehearsing new plays, and thus level up to level 2. Sorry, forgot to change the map there. It's okay. There we go. We move south to the heart of the lands. As you can tell, here in Peraltro, 3 shadow powers have some influence. Goba da Grumi and her Digitalonga agents, Gosgana da Skugre of the Defaults Guild, but no agents there. Ingolma Dokela, who has her mafiosi connections. And as such, it is Gobalagrummi's soldiers. They are working hard on looking over the fortifications within the city, making notes on who is most likely to turn against the Empire first should things get uncomfortable. And they are mobilizing from level 1 to level 2, as per before. Meanwhile, the bankers make several wise investments these months, and to the glory of Kastik, the gold grows. Leveling up the bankers to level 2 as well. We move on to Tresilva and the heartlands of the Empire, why don't we? So you've seen the director of the Digitalonga, Guba da Grumi herself, is of course always in Famqualdi. That's her base. In Tresilva is the base of the wigmaker Ingolma Dokella's operations, and she is, of course, the wig-making guild is the front of the mafia, organized crime, in Paratorno. That is her base. She has the highest amount of influence in the capital at the moment. And as such, her enforcers recruit new numbers from the city's down and out population. Cut purses, muggers, and ne'er-do-wells should apply. Having the enforcers go from level 1 to level 2. Rovendo Alicella is, in fact, the younger brother of the Emperor. Duke Alicella has power over Newmark, and his agents in Tresilva are going to observe to quietly gather information about which merchants or socialites give any pushback. They'll be disparaged later after cases and narratives are built, but this is a social play. And so the agents of Rovendo Alicella level up to level 2. Gubala Grumi's Digitalonga obviously also has agents in the capital. Her secretaries are beginning to make note of any paperwork that crosses their desks with specific names attached. Leveling up to level 2. Moving on to Newmark, which is where Rovendo Alicella has his base. He has contacts here, and these contacts spread gossip. The court of Alicella is modeled after a seemingly never-ending soiree, a chance for the politically powerful to mingle with the socially fashionable. Such things do not happen without groundwork, however, and a party that lasts weeks takes much preparation. The hangers-on will be sent to mingle with the common crowd, to patronize businesses that could be convinced or pressed into publicly stating support for a commemorative parade to be held annually in celebration of imperial bravery and determination. Who could reject these ideals? Who would spit in the face of the sacrifices made on their behalf? Who can commit more funds or position themselves socially to prove they support the empire the most? And if a business rival can be painted as seditious in the process, who could refuse? And so the contacts mobilize to level 3. Here's Rovenda himself, the good Duke. We move on to Malusa and Hiltre. Malusa being the center of Silvolium refineries. Gubada Grumi's spies watch and listen to the words on the street, waiting for the tides to turn. So level up to level 2. That's a mobilize action, that's what it's called. All these leveling ups are called mobilizing. We also have Ingolma Dokella here with her organizer. They're busy purchasing paints and paper in large quantities, preparing for the following months to create flyers that will escape no one's attention. And thus they become level 2 as well. And we move on to Hiltre and Hoyjar. This is where Clenora da Spinalunga, the Duchess, who is the Empress's closest confidant, has some foresters. And these foresters quietly begin talking amongst themselves and their fellows, beginning to organize. The Duke, Gumba probably, and his kin have been finding new ways to amuse themselves, and it has not been to the serfs' benefits. And so the foresters now become level 2. And we go on to Bretalva and Karamak, and Bralorge, of course. In Bralorge, nothing will happen this turn, because there is no resource here. Though Rovendo Alicella does have some influence in Bralorge, but nobody has any resources here, so nothing happens there. In Bretalva and Karamak, at least Spinalunga has some connections. Her ladies-in-waiting work to organize the festival celebrating the first algae silk harvest of the year. With word finally traveling from Tresilva, they begin organizing the pageants that will show the workers and slaves the beautiful creations their hard work will produce. And so they level up from level 1 to level 2. In Karamak, the trade ship captains working for Duchess Spinalunga solicit and negotiate contracts with the Crifferweed merchants for their goods. With summer coming and rumors of a dragon taking to the sky, demand is sure to be higher soon. Crifferweed, of course, being known as a substance that is fire resistant. So if you dress your house or your ship in asbast carpets, which is the product of Crifferweed, they will in fact resist fire. So yes, since Karamak is in fact the center of such production, I think the trade ship captains will have sturdier fire protection coming. And so they have leveled up to level 2. And that ends the first turn of the Game of Shadows in Intermission. As you can see, everything is quiet in the Empire for now. Apparently all the powers that be are simply content to look to their own ranks, to organize for the future. Maybe the peace will last in the Empire. Maybe it will all be fine. Or maybe not so much. See you next time. You have listened to Crucible Gaming Group's actual play of Erik Granström's Conflux Saga campaign. Book 1, Sulphurwinter. We use the Svavelwinter role-playing game rules and the world book for Dracoria, both published by the Free League. Music by Tabletop Audio. You can also catch our actual play videos on Twitch and YouTube, and find us on Facebook and Twitter.